Hello everyone, GM. Welcome back to another episode of Overpriced JPEGs and a special episode, a back-to-back feature, back-to-back Moment of Zeneca episodes with our favorite Zeneca 33. We brought him back here 1 week after having him on because we really didn't get through everything last week that we wanted to. Zeneca had to hop off, so we wanted to finish what we were saying from last week's conversation. Also, a little technical glitch on the Overpriced JPEGs team side, and we did not get the podcast episode out on last Friday when it was supposed to go out. It came out on YouTube, but not on the podcast streams. So that got out late. So this is our apology, is to bring Zeneca right back. If you didn't listen to last week's episode, go check that out. Again, it came out a little late. And other than that, we got to dive in. I mean, you got crazy stuff going on. You've got more Goblintown stuff I feel like we need to talk about. RektGuy, Admit One, GMoney's project, and then, you know, all sorts of other news when it comes to, like, we'll talk about the Nate Chastain situation, cool cats. I don't know. There's a million things. As always, though, we're going to get to all of that after a word from our wonderful, wonderful sponsors.
RARIBLE is the NFT platform that's leading the charge into the multi-chain universe ahead of us. Available on Flow, Tezos, Polygon, and of course, Ethereum, RARIBLE is the perfect place for NFT newcomers, profile picture collectors, and experienced NFT traders. RARIBLE has a variety of NFT features that set it apart from other NFT marketplaces. They have a native messaging function allowing you to DM your friends or haggle with sellers. They also have a mobile app on iOS and Android with a built-in NFT portfolio tracker tool, so you can easily check the value of your digital art portfolio. RARIBLE is built on the RARIBLE protocol, a multi-purpose, open source, and community-governed NFT protocol that helps build products and services across the NFT ecosystem, including white label marketplaces tailored to specific NFT communities. So go to rarible.com and start discovering and trading NFTs, putting in floor bids to join PFP communities, and DM with some brand new internet friends. If you're starting on your NFT journey, you need MetaMask. This is your tool to unlock the world of DeFi and NFTs without giving up custody over your private keys. MetaMask is both a secure in-browser wallet and also a secure bridge for your hardware wallet so that you can connect to any Web3 enabled website. You can now trade tokens with any DEX or aggregator. MetaMask Swap gathers real-time pricing information across the DeFi exchange ecosystem, allowing you to select your best price while getting all of the MetaMask benefits of self-custody, lower gas costs, and increased transaction success rates. MetaMask also has a fantastic mobile wallet, which I use while I'm out and about. And I use it to collect POAPs, NFTs, and use it for all my DeFi things while I'm away from home. If you haven't downloaded MetaMask, you gotta try it out. Download MetaMask for desktop and mobile at metamask.io, or load up your Ledger, Trezor, Keystone, or Lattice hardware wallets so that they too can get into Web3.
All right, Zeneca, let's do the macro update. That's always where we start. Just like give us where we are in the market. I think last week when you came on, the market had just tanked another whatever percent. ETH was down. Where are we now as we record this Thursday, June 2nd?
It's almost like history is repeating itself. So during the week, ETH had bounced back. It was sitting, close to 2K again. I think it might have flirted with it just whenever it just went down. And then today it's back down to 1,800. It's down like 8 to 10% in the last 24, 36 hours. Aside from that, I think things are going fairly well. They're relatively stable. The NFT market is just absurd. We're in this. It's both my most favorite and least favorite meta ever. It's this whole free derivative goblin zombie, just chaos, and it's fun and it's memey. But it's also so stupid, and it's like, we deserve to go to zero. When you look at like the top 5, top 10, top 15 projects by volume, like I'm looking at it right now. Number 1, Goblintown. Number 2, Goblin Girls. Number 3, Ill Poopit NFT. Number 5, Zombie Town. Number 10, Elf Town. Number 12, Baby Goblins. Like, and spattered
what
in
are you
between
looking
all
at?
this,
What's the site that you're looking at volume on?
OpenSea, just top 24.
Oh
wait, hang on. Maybe I hadn't. Okay, no, yeah, I just refreshed and it's basically the same. Oh God, now it's even worse actually. There's Goblin Piss WTF. There's GT Burgers.wtf.
The theme from last week and this week is just we deserve to go to zero. It also we are in the season of free mints, and I think I heard Farouk saying this. Somebody was giving this advice, and I think it's strong advice. If you are participating in free mints, do not do it on like the wallet where you keep all of your NFTs. Like use I don't know what the phrase is it a hot wallet? Use it, use a burner wallet to mint these free mints, because it's very easy for them to insert something nefarious and wipe you out. Yeah, man, it's crazy. Well, I think it's interesting too, right? I mean, this speaks to a broader trend we're seeing, which makes some sense of folks not really wanting to dabble on the higher end, the higher price point projects. Something that I think maybe illustrates this or is just interesting is CloneX. There was a CloneX NFT auctioned at Christie's. I believe it was last week, so sometime in the not too distant past. And it basically, I think it had a couple bidders, but they didn't come close to the minimum bid on it, so it just didn't sell. I don't know. Have you been tracking this story at all?
I have not been tracking this particular one, but I think you're right that in general, blue chips have not been getting the attention that they used to.
Yeah, and look, none of them have like fallen to zero, which I think there were like fears that maybe these things would be worth nothing. And I think you're not seeing that, but you're certainly not seeing the activity on them that you're used to seeing. And I think that's also what that top 10 volume list that you're showing is also because there aren't blue chips there to kind of take the place because you're not seeing that high end volume going on. I think it is interesting that you had this auction was held at Christie's Hong Kong, and there were a number of pieces like traditional artworks that were going sort of above the minimum and had a lot of activity around them. But the only NFT I believe was CloneX, just like didn't even hit its minimum, didn't sell. I think people are just a little bit nervous about these newer asset classes and paying a lot of money for them right now. So it'll bounce back, of course, as a market, but that felt indicative of where we are in the space right now. For
sure. I also think that people are becoming anti these big traditional auction houses, Christie's and Sotheby's. There's this whole almost scandal that was came out a month or so ago, where an artist said, "Hey, I sold work at Christie's. I don't remember if it was Christie's or Sotheby's. They're interchangeable in my mind. I sold work there, and it's been 6 months. They haven't paid me. I've had to chase them up. I had to begin a lawsuit, and then like lots of other artists came out and said the exact same thing." And so it's almost like the NFT space is like, we don't need you. If you're not going to treat us well, we're not going to, care about you anymore. And when last year it was like a huge big deal, and it still is a big deal for a lot of artists to, be featured at Sotheby's or Christie's. But this, I think, has really put a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. And maybe there's some, flow on effect where people are like, I'm not going to bid on a CloneX thing at this auction house because of how they treat the NFT space. Yeah. Wow,
that's fascinating. I was not tracking that. I mean, of course, where my head goes is it's just such a argument for smart contracts. Like, why? Yeah. Like this should just be an automated process transaction that goes through, run algorithmically, no hold up. Like, what's the problem? Like pay the artist. Yeah. It shouldn't take a manual process.
They take like an egregious fee. I think it's like 25-30% of the sales is just to Sotheby's or Christie's. So yeah, it's like we don't need them. Yeah.
Down with the middlemen. Very interesting. I don't know if this ties to the macro environment or not. It feels like it does, which is the Nate Chastain story that I think broke really recently, maybe even this morning. For those who don't remember, Nate was an employee at OpenSea. He was head of product, I believe. He was in charge of determining what NFT projects got featured on the OpenSea homepage. And he basically got found out, it was found out that he was buying works that were then featured on the OpenSea homepage and like making money, flipping them after they were featured on the homepage. The announcement this morning was that the FBI, or he's basically being charged with like wire fraud, around insider trading. And that's really interesting that there's this crackdown happening. And this feels like it's tied to the macro environment a little bit to me because people are cynical and pessimistic and kind of hate, I think, NFTs all the more. And the government is trying to get their hands around all of this. And so I think they're looking to make an example out of Nate.
It does seem that way, that they're trying to make an example out of him. But I think they're saying he's up to 20 years. He's on the line for 20 years in prison, which is, it's quite excessive for, I don't know the exact amount of money he made, but I think it was 7 ETH, 10 ETH, 15 ETH. It wasn't like hundreds or thousands, like a lot of these scams and rug pulls are getting off. Hundreds of thousands of ETH, so like millions and millions of dollars. It was a, quote unquote relatively insignificant amount. Obviously what he did was wrong. Obviously it was terrible, and he should be punished, but I don't think the punishment fits the crime if he does get charged for 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, that's the maximum sentence. I highly doubt he'll get that. I think what he's being charged with carries a maximum sentence of up to 20 years. And I think I would be shocked if he actually got that much. You know, it's interesting. I met him in New York, and you know, I feel a little bad. You know, the way he frames it is not like he was buying these works after he found out that they were going to be featured on the homepage. It was more like there were artists that he really liked, and because he liked them, he was buying their works, and then because he liked them, he was putting them on the homepage, which is definitely a different framing of the narrative as opposed to like, oh, I found out they were going to be featured on the homepage, so I had this insider info, I was then buying them up. With that being said, that's also a generous interpretation because he was then selling them after. He was using secretive wallets to do this. Like, he clearly on some level knew there was something a little bit dicey about this because he wasn't just like using his standard wallet and being super, super public about it, as far as I know. But I believe him on that. Like, I do think that this, for him, was a little bit more a case of like, oh, I love this artist. Like, we should totally feature them. I have some of their works. And there was a little bit more of that at play than maybe the coverage is suggesting.
Yeah. I mean, my impression and interpretation is, I guess, more forgiving and favorable as well. I think it was more a case of ignorance and negligence rather than malice and like willfully trying to just exploit the entire community. I think it was, whatever. And like you said, he used burner wallets and not his main wallet, but he didn't do a great job of hiding it. Like, he just sent money from his main wallet to another wallet and bought from there. It's like, that's so easy to track.
Which again might suggest that he really, his thing, and what he said this to me, you know, is sort of like he didn't really realize, you know, like this didn't occur to him that he was doing something really nefarious. And so, you know, he certainly could have hit it better if he was in some way. So it'll be really interesting to see how it plays out. And you know, I think it'll be interesting to see if there are any follow-on effects around folks who have gotten insider information around, say, the Yuga acquisition of Meebits. Clearly there were people who knew that earlier. Like, we see this all the time. Clearly there are people who get advance warning about things that are upcoming and then are able to profit off of it. And, you know, where does that fall in the FBI's view? Yeah,
it opens up a massive can of worms, but
yeah. I mean, I think about it even like, I would say this podcast, but I've done the opposite. Like, I've played it so poorly. I've typically failed to buy into like the pumps that have come after I've featured a project. So, which not even because I'm trying to be moral, just because I'm an idiot. But it is interesting, you know, like if you're Kevin Rose, you certainly have the power to move the price of a project. And oftentimes he has projects on that he owns, and he owns them because he likes them, and then he features them because he likes them. And it's, you know, it's a fine line. Okay, let's get into the hot projects. You obviously are listing the high volume projects there. I feel very little need to talk about all of the ones you mentioned.
There's one.
Maybe we just do the Goblintown update. I think when we were talking about Goblintown last week, it was at like, I don't know, 2.5 ETH, 3 ETH? What was it at?
I think it was two and a bit, 2.45 or something like that.
And you were selling then. Did you keep selling, or did you hold a bunch?
I sort of kept selling. I still have 19 or something like that. So I started with 60.
Wait, you bought 60? How many did you buy again?
60 or 62, 63. And I sold 10 at 0.4, 10 at 0.5, and then the rest I've been slowly selling. But
what did you buy them at?
0.03 to 0.05.
So we talked about this last week. You were like, I'm a sucker for like no roadmap, CCO, free mint projects. So you bought in for that, but was there, like, did you think it would do this? Like, did you just adequately predict this? You just thought they were fun and you wanted to hold them.
I thought that there was a chance that they would take off and you know, the meme narrative would run with it. But obviously I sold 10 at 0.4, 10 at 0.5. I thought that, you know, that we were in a bear market. I didn't necessarily expect it to come anywhere near where it is right now, but there was something to it. It wasn't just the CC0, no roadmap, and free mint. That's great. The art and website was well made. It was the meme, just the narrative of Goblintown. Goblintown had been all over Twitter all year, and there's a cat in front of my screen right now. cat. And what was I saying? Yeah, and just like people were in this bearish down phase, and this just fun random project comes up, memeing about Goblintown and like talking in this weird language and making fun of just every other project and just yeah, power in memes. So I didn't expect it to get anywhere near to where it is, but I thought there was something there. And there's I can name half a dozen other projects that I bought 50 to 100 to 150 of. They're basically worthless right now, but this one happened to work out nicely.
And they've continued to do these Twitter spaces where they just talk in goblin voices and do absurd things.
Yeah, it's crazy. Although there was probably one of the most heartwarming things happened in Twitter space the other day. It was a Goblintown space, and I can't remember the exact situation, or like the exact details of the story, but you know, they were talking in the real Goblintown annoying thing in the background music. And then someone came on up and, you know, he tried to talk normally. And initially they were like, you know, continuing in their voice. But you could tell that he was on the verge of tears. And, you know, he was just in a really bad way. And he was talking about how he had goblins and sold them, or I think he might have got scammed out of his one goblin. And it was just like, you know, in tears. And one of the team members or one of the people on the call ended up sending him a goblin. And it was just this really warm thing. But then it went on for like half an hour more, where this person was just sort of pouring his heart and soul out. He's like, this was the straw that broke the camel's back. I've been in this space for so long. Things haven't been going well for me. Life is bad. And he was just getting this outpouring of support. You know, that they turned off the goblin music. They started talking with real human voices. And it was just this really heartwarming moment. And there must have been thousands or tens of thousands of people that ended up listening to it. And it was just like a reminder that, you know, we can be DJs, we can be memeing and just like doing stupid shit. But at the end of the day, we're all humans and we care for each other, at least in this space it did. And I thought that was really, really special.
That's beautiful. Where do you think this goes? I mean, I love that. It does seem like there's a strong community. People have been making the Bored Ape comparison, saying in the early days of Bored Apes, people would make like ape noises in Clubhouse. And do you have predictions at this point? Like the team, I think, probably didn't anticipate this and now must be looking at this going, well, should we do something here?
It's basically impossible to predict. Who knows? No one could have predicted Yuga and the Bored Apes. There are a lot of similarities, like an eerie number, which doesn't to me make me think that it's the Yuga behind it. A lot of people have this speculation. I don't think it's Yuga.
Oh, I don't at all.
But yeah, but it is an anonymous team, and Bored Apes was by an anonymous team at the time. We just knew some Twitter profiles with some avatars. It did sort of come at a time, like Bored Apes launched when people were kind of getting fed up with the market. There were all these FOMO ramps and bonding curves, and it was just like not a fun state for quote unquote regular folk or like people who didn't have a lot of money. It was like the crypto punks, it was very elite, and then Meebits, and like it was just seemed like the rich kept getting richer. And then they came out and sort of like flattened the playing field, and all of these new people who didn't have access to these premium NFTs now just banded together and formed a community of just this new cohort in the space, having fun and just, you know, degenning and having memes and creating derivatives and being all over Twitter. Like all you could hear about on Twitter for weeks and weeks were apes back then. A lot of similarities now. It's like the Goblins launched at a time when the market was down. People were fed up of the rich getting richer, and Yuga just, you know, if you had an ape, you got a mutant, and you got a dog, and you got other side. And, you know, a lot of people tried to mint other side, and they couldn't. They failed. They lost money. ApeCoin went down. People were just sort of fed up of these S tier projects, and then all of a sudden this free project comes out, Stealth Mint. It doesn't really seem like. Yeah, it just seems organic. Like no one really knows who's behind it, or other than just their personas on Twitter and the characters that they're playing, and people are having fun more than anything. I think that's like the key thing to the success of the Goblintown project is that people are having fun with it. And I think for a long time, people had forgotten how to have fun, or they just didn't even realize you could have fun with NFTs because it was all about making money. And then now people are having fun. So who knows where we go from here?
The team hasn't given any indication in their goblin speak that they're doing anything. Is that true?
I heard there's some talk about burgers. Like there's a McDonald's hat NFTs and there's some burger, like genuine burger derivative. I saw like one piece of artwork of like a well-drawn burger. I don't know what they're doing with it. But yeah, I haven't heard like a roadmap or anything. I mean, yeah, there's nothing like that I've heard of.
Matt Medved tweeted out, do goblins have Bored Ape vibes or Loot vibes? I have a perspective on this, but I'm curious if you have a perspective before I give mine.
Bored Ape vibes for sure is my perspective. I think Loot
I
was
would
very
go Loot.
much interesting.
Let's battle it out. Give me your rationale.
Loot to me was, it was a stealth launch. It was a free mint, et cetera, et cetera. But the people who sort of gravitated towards Loot and fell in love with it and formed the core community, to me, were like more sophisticated trade. It was people who understand Solidity. They were like coding things, forming a little mini DAOs and trying to create like products and build out this universe from the ground up, this derivative project. Whereas Bored Apes was sort of more casual retail investors who were just having fun and memeing on Twitter rather than writing code and interacting with smart contracts, which is what Loot was. But I'm curious to know what your thing is. Yeah.
You took it from the community side and I'm thinking about it from the team side. So I'll tell you where my head goes is Bored Apes, and I could be wrong about this and you can correct me, but there was a level of intentionality, it felt like, around Bored Apes. While yes, there was an organic, the community went and ran with it and you're talking ape speak in the thing. Like they had a Discord. They quickly had a graffiti thing. They had the yacht club where you could go and write your name, where they were like, we're going to test the bounds of utility with this. They clearly cultivated and continued to cultivate community, saying, hey, we're going to throw Ape Fest, which came much later, obviously. But like they were very involved and felt to me like a team that, yes, not docs, just all these things, but like was trying to build something. Loot felt like, it's Dom Hoffman and others, but like, hey, look, we're kind of screwing around. It's a free mint. Don't expect anything from us. Like we're throwing this out there. Y'all with the community can run through it, CCO, whatever you make of it, you make of it. We don't necessarily want the responsibility to build anything here. And Goblintown feels a little bit more that way to me, which I'm wondering if there's a shift now that it's had all the success. But the team, I think free mints in general often come from a place of like, I want to play around and I don't want anybody to come yell at me if nothing comes of it. And that says to me a team that maybe doesn't want to have to, which is, I totally respect. If you're going to make it a free mint, then I think it's okay to not want to whatever. And so it feels like it's this hypey thing right now that we all need. It's a way to blow off steam. We can all laugh about it. It's getting people to think just like Loot did. But ultimately, unless members of the community really step up and decide it's going to be their full-time jobs to like make something out of this, or the team shifts its perspective, I think you need a central governing body to push a thing forward. And I don't see what that is for goblins yet, which makes it feel more like Loot to me.
Yeah, no, I actually totally agree with that perspective as well. Yeah, I mean, it can be both. There's elements of both. I think I fully agree that like the lack of a team vision or central entity is going to hinder/hurt it at some point. Clearly, it's running on vibes at the moment, running on memes. People are loving it. It's all over the space. But I'm certainly of the mindset that I don't think it can quote unquote keep going until the team reveals themselves, or like they don't have to like docs. We don't have to know their identities necessarily. I think maybe we do because of Azuki and just that whole can of worms, but reveals their intentions, reveals their experience, reveals something, and
reveals an intention to do more than what they've done so far, because everything about the project up to this point has said we don't have an intention to do more, right? Like you love the CCO, no roadmap, free mint thing, which I think is really cool too. But all of that to me says, hey, we as a team like don't want to be on the hook to do anything, which again, I think is totally cool. Let it be what it is. But it says that to me. And I just don't know how the price action remains what it's been with that being the case. And as the mood eventually someday shifts in the space.
Yeah, to something else. I wonder, I mean, what if it's the same team? What if it's Zagabond? What if it's someone who's runs projects and scams people? Like that's just going to destroy it, right? So maybe they don't want to come out because of that.
Although I don't know, what's Azuki at? It's at like 12 these days.
Right. Yeah. The community sort of, this whole space is crazy. this whole space.
And which,
is
again,
crazy.
I get it. I actually think Zagabond's talented. And I think that whoever's doing Goblintown is talented. They've created like a very clear vibe.
Yeah.
Let's move to RektGuy. If you're game, I can speak a little bit about this because I think it's same theme. Free mint, different in other ways, and we'll get to that. But free mint playing on this theme of like, we're all wrecked, playing on the bear market feelings. Have you been following this? Do you have any RektGuys?
Yeah.
What's your exposure here?
I have some. I have 13, I think. I bought them at 0.3 or 0.4. So after reveal, but yeah, you know what? There's a really funny moment in the Zen Academy Alpha Discord. People were talking about it. And I mean, I like the art. I like OSF. So it's like, I had bought one at this point. And then I looked at the website. I hadn't actually gone to the website. And I saw CC0 and no roadmap. I was like, all right.
We're at it again.
And then I just swept 12. Yeah. They got me.
They got you. Well, let me give the context here. So OSF, Zeneca, you just said that he's the artist behind it. He's been in the space for a while. I think he's gotten a lot of respect. I know I respect him. He's big in like Farouk's universe. He did a long post a while back about Rug Radio and why he was bullish on Rug Radio. He's done, I know, threads I've seen in the past about Bored Apes and analyses there. I feel like he's really done a great job as an artist of like also being a community builder and really ingratiating himself in the space. I hear him on spaces, not infrequently. And I didn't really know, but it sounds like, he had done some projects in the past. He'd done one that was regens. He'd done like a regens project that I think
you could burn to get regens. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's what it was. And it had sort of tanked price-wise for a little while, and then they really just kept working at it, resuscitated it. Like, it seems like he and his team have really just been grinding in the space, and then released this as a free mint. Really didn't have expectations. I was hearing OSF give this story, like, wasn't expecting anything, was just trying to reward holders and whatever. And then he was off at like a bachelor party. I guess he's UK based, and then somebody texted him to say that Snoop Dogg had bought one of the RektGuys, and he like was like drinking and like gets this text, and then the next thing he knows, Snoop Dogg's like profile picture I think was like a RektGuy, and then it sort of went crazy from there. And it makes me happy because I think it's a deserved success from somebody who's been in the space for a while, been putting out work in the space for a while, has had ups and downs, and is now both himself and then also his collectors and holders are really getting rewarded with the project pumping a bit. I think it's about like 0.6 now. I think it's come down a little bit from maybe where its high was, but still, and I like the art. It's very, X-Copy inspired.
Glitch art. Yeah. No, I agree completely. I'm really happy for him. Just a builder in the space, someone who's been around, an artist who creates one-of-one art editions, a lot of just prolific, I would say, prolific artist, prolific builder, really smart investor, went really big and heavy on Bored Apes and Yuga, really early on or relatively early on. And yeah, just is a person who has like compassion and foresight and intention and intelligence. He's written a really good thread. I don't know if he's written multiple threads or I'm just remembering him like referencing the same thread, but sort of about during a bear market, reallocating your portfolio into things that you have high conviction in. And, it's about, to paraphrase the thread from what I can remember of it, he's like, step away from your computer, go for a walk, come back, get a stack of paper and a pen and write down your portfolio. Don't use OpenSea, don't scroll, just from what you can remember. And then if you have to check. And then go through and mark everything in your portfolio or every collection that you have between, do you have high conviction in this project, medium conviction, and low conviction? And just start selling off and consolidating the things you have low conviction in. And even if you have to sell at a loss, even if, the market's bad, if you don't have much conviction in it, they're just going to cause you anguish and agony. And this is something I've spoken about as well. It's like if you have high conviction in a project, you can hold through a bear market, you can hold for the long term. It's when you're invested and overextended into projects that you don't really have conviction in, you YOLO'd in, and now too much of your portfolio is on the line. That's when you start to panic and feel that sinking heart. And yeah, I mean, he's just really clever, really hardworking in building it. As for the mint being a free mint, it was free, but it was very heavily allocated to those who had bought his previous project. So he's really rewarding his supporters. And I think there might have been like 1,000 or 1,500 raffled off to the public. But yeah, it was degens, regens, his one of ones, his additions, creating value, and just doing everything right. Web3, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's a great Web3 story, and I'm sure this is not the end of it, because he'll be building in the space for years to come, I think. No. So very cool. Admit One. Have you been following Admit One, the GMoney drop?
A little bit.
Another free one.
'Tis the season, yeah, like you said. Yeah, I followed it a little bit. I saw that it was a thing that was coming out. I think GMoney released the website and the mint list like a day or two before people could start minting. There's a manifesto. It's very proof-esque. A lot of people are comparing it's 1,000-person private Discord, except free mint, so not proof, raise a lot of money first. And the idea, again, was largely rewarding early supporters and people that had followed him. And like he's been running events and giving out POAPs for, I don't know, a year plus maybe. And to people who like turn up to his Twitter spaces, people to meet him, to turn up to, I think, I don't know if it was like a treasure hunt or something he did in person that, he rewarded people if you went to all 3 events, stuff like that. Yeah, and just gave back to his community and created this private Discord. And obviously he's been very successful in the space in other areas as well, was part of the Adidas into the metaverse, a whole drop situation, and has done many other things. But yeah, so by nature of his reputation and the people that he put together for this private group, the floor price pretty quickly went up to like 18 ETH or something. I mean, like 4 and then 9 and then 18. Now it's back to a little bit, but yeah.
His journey's really interesting too. I've been on a call with him one time where he really just talked about like his background growing up in New York, and then like I think he's like a degen at heart, right? He started as a trader in Web 2 markets, and then got into crypto, and now NFTs. And something that struck me, I think 59%. He really curated the list of this 1,000-member community. To your point, like people who had been with him from the early days, people that he admires, whatever. And I think 59% of the holders are women, and he was like very intentional about curating a community that would like have a lot of women and diversity in it. And I know it's something that he just like genuinely feels, which is great coming from somebody who like is such a leader in the space. And it reminds me of you. Like I think people who just coming by this belief in that very genuinely. So I actually think I'm interviewing him on Monday, so in like a few days. So we'll hopefully release that quickly so y'all can learn more, because I think he's got a marketplace tied in to this, and he's got like a whole ecosystem he's building out. Your point about proof, I think, is on point. So we will hopefully have more information about it coming out here on Overpriced JPEGs in very short order. I went to Puerto Rico, as folks know, and very soon I'm going to be having some special content coming out about my trip to Puerto Rico and the ecosystem there. And G is currently based in Puerto Rico, and he had organized a conference called Metaverso there, which was really a charity event, but it was also helping to onboard a lot of Puerto Rican artists into NFTs and show them like how it works and auction their work off as NFTs. And when I was there and speaking to the NFT crypto community in Puerto Rico, that event came up a number of times from artists who were like, this was so life-changing, because that was really where I got started in NFTs, and now I've had this success in it or whatever. So he does a lot of like giving back, and I really admire him. I think he's a good guy. Okay. Let's see. Gosh, so many things always. Ooh, something I'm excited about. ApeCoin announced they'd be moving to IMX. I think there was a lot of, did you see this? I'm seeing your face.
I did not. I saw it on your list, and I'm in Dubai. I'm filming a course, and I'm just like living under a rock. So I see goblins and goblin derivatives, and that's my exposure to the space. So tell me.
Yeah. I mean, I think more to be revealed, but after the other side, land debacle and that went sort of sideways, the DAO, the Ape DAO committee, and I think Yuga itself, and whatever, we're kind of putting out messaging being like, well, Ethereum can't handle us, and kind of trying to blame Ethereum for their auction going poorly. And that was annoying to people, but the underlying theme that like games, and if you need something that needs like a high level of scale and like a lot of transactions like a game will inevitably need, that doesn't work well on Ethereum layer 1, like that's a valid point, and that's clearly true. And so there was a lot of speculation. They had said they'd implied, or I think straight up said, like maybe we need Ape Chain, seemed to imply they were maybe going to set up their own chain, which I really didn't like that idea. I think we've seen Ronin and Flow. I don't know. I just think that whatever. And then people were saying maybe they're going to go to Avalanche. Well, anyway, it finally came out. They put out a statement, and I think IMX put out a statement saying that they'll be building on basically Immutable X. I really like this. I'm very bullish on layer 2s. It's something I'm digging more into. I spent a good portion of time with Robbie Ferguson, who's one of the co-founders of IMX at VCon. Just a big fan of his, and know people on the team there who I'm really big fans of. So I'm very bullish on IMX as like as the place to go if you're a game and you need just a highly scaled operation, or the ability to scale your operation. And yeah, I mean, they had to go through the DAO. So that, they went through, they had to, I think, buy ApeCoin and to be able to submit a proposal and like go through a whole process with the DAO to get their approval that they would move to IMX. So I'm sure more details to come out on that, but pretty big news.
Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, as a part of the DAO, I guess I have some ApeCoin. I think it's a good decision. I'm like you, I'm bullish on layer 2s. I'm bullish on IMX. I think that they've done a lot right. They've been around for a long time and have proven themselves. And it's not easy to run a layer 2. There's been issues and friction with every layer 2 and basically every blockchain, except Ethereum. Ethereum is great. It runs smoothly. It might be expensive, but it runs well. But yeah, no, they've done better than most, I would say, and are just getting better and better and better, and have some big brains, and they're really good about taking care of the early supporters, I think, on IMX, which is very crypto native part of the ethos, and it's good to hear. And yeah, I'm excited. Good for ApeCoin.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting for IMX, it came out of Robbie and his brother James, I believe, building Gods Unchained. Like they were building a crypto game, realized it wasn't going to work well on Ethereum layer 1, and so then decided to build Immutable X. So even the origin story, like it was so built out of a need, and then they're so committed to servicing that need.
Living a bankless life requires taking control over your own private keys. And that's why so many in the Bankless Nation already have their Ledger hardware wallet. And brand new to the Ledger lineup of hardware wallets is the Ledger Nano S Plus, a huge upgrade to the world's most popular hardware wallet. With more memory and a larger screen, the Nano S Plus makes it easy to navigate and verify your transactions. And the paired Ledger Live desktop app gives you increased transparency as to what is about to happen with your NFT. What you see is what you sign. The Nano S Plus gives you the smoothest possible user experience while you're doing all of your crypto things. So go to the Ledger website to check out the features of the new Ledger Nano S Plus and join the waitlist to get yours. And don't forget about the Crypto Life card, also powered by Ledger. The CL card is a crypto debit card that hooks right into the Ledger Live app, right next to all the DeFi apps and services that you're already used to doing, like swapping tokens and staking. So if you don't have a Ledger hardware wallet, go to ledger.com, grab a Ledger, and take control over your crypto. It's increasingly obvious that everything will become tokenized, and NFT marketplaces needs robust financial reporting, performance analysis, and the peace of mind that they are compliance ready. GILDED's NFT Ops is a one-stop financial reporting solution for growing NFT platforms. GILDED has developed marketplace-specific modules to track the financial performance of NFT creators, including revenue tracking, collection metrics, royalty payments, and revenue share. Customers of NFT Ops gain full access to accounting tools and powerful APIs for custom integrations that simplify operations, streamline reporting, and produce tax-ready data. So no wonder why so many top brands like CoinMarketCap, Gitcoin, Nifty's, and POAP trust GILDED to automate complex reporting workflows. Visit gilded.finance/bankless to learn more.
Okay, you're in Dubai, so I want to flag this one. I thought this was a fun one. There's a hotel in Dubai that has now announced they will accept crypto if you stay there. We'll link to the article about it. I wanted to get your thoughts on this because there was this narrative shift, I feel like, starting with NFTs within the Ethereum community of like, okay, Ethereum is money. Or maybe it wasn't a shift within the Ethereum community, but it was like you suddenly had people who would acknowledge Ethereum as money because people were willing to spend Ethereum on NFTs. But I don't know that that translates to people being willing to spend Ethereum on a stay in a hotel. They'll buy an NFT with Ethereum because they think the price might go up, and it might even go up faster than the price of Ethereum will go up. But buying something like a hotel where the price, you're just sinking money into that. You're not going to make a return on that. And using an asset that could go up in price, I'm not convinced people will use. I think you can use Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Binance coin at this hotel. And I'm not convinced people will do it. What do you think?
I would spend so much money there if every hotel did it.
You would? You spend ETH?
I would spend ETH. I mean, I was been staying at a hotel for the last 4 nights.
Oh my God, I love that I had this long preamble and it was completely unnecessary that I preamble at all.
Well, no, everyone has different views, but I mean, I paid with my credit card and paid dollars, and it's annoying because all right, I got to get the ETH. I mean, I earn in ETH for the most part. I got to get ETH, sell ETH, withdraw to fiat. There's fees involved. At the end of the day, it's the same money. It's just there's extra transaction fees involved to actually spend the money. And so if I could just pay in ETH, that's amazing. I had a call with an accountant this morning, another accountant, and he was like, "You can pay me in crypto," and I was like, "This is amazing."
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy hell. So you're like bankless. You're truly like one of the bankless people. I mean, you're not actually, because you quite literally have to have a bank and still transact in fiat. But
Right.
wait, this is blowing my mind. Because also you're like, oh, you're like, it's the same money. No, it's not, right? Like ETH goes up in price, dollars go down in price. So I mean, and obviously that's ETH is going down now, and whatever. I understand the nuance, but I'm super bullish on ETH. So like to me, spending my ETH on something that isn't itself garnering me a return, I'm like, I'm too much of an ETH hoarder. But I don't live the same life as you. Like I get paid in fiat and whatever. My life is much more spent in fiat.
It's just great as an option. I would say it's just great to have that option. You don't have to. It's not like they're only taking crypto, I assume, because that would be great if they were. Imagine the buy pressure on. Imagine if every hotel in the world, yeah.
ETH is money. This is actually blowing my mind, and I don't want to bore people, but in 2010, 2011, something a long time ago, there was a Planet Money episode. I love Planet Money, the podcast. It's like I've been listening to it for like a decade and a half now. And they did an episode about Bitcoin, and they made this bet about like, would anybody spend Bitcoin in the future? Because why would you spend money on an asset that like is scarce and actually going up in value? And I've always sort of held that view since listening to that episode, that like fundamentally people don't want to spend crypto on real world items, and that doesn't, to me, negate the value of it in all sorts of other ways. And we'll transact in stable coins and whatever, but that these underlying assets themselves, ETH, Bitcoin, that I sort of see more like gold. Anyway, love to hear this. Very cool. You would spend your ETH on this hotel in Dubai. Next trip.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned spending in stablecoins. I would prefer to spend in stablecoins. If they accepted Bitcoin, ETH, and USDC, I would probably pay in USDC, probably. But, between ETH and using my credit card, or, well, maybe I use the credit card because I get points, but, no, I wouldn't, because then there's transaction fees. It's annoying. It's ETH. ETH is amazing. Like I already think of things in ETH. You buy something and, you're going to buy a new laptop and it's like $1,000. That's so expensive. I was going to say it's 0.25 ETH. Those days are over. It's 0.5 ETH. It's still like, it's 0.5 is so much less than 1,000. So
new world. Yeah. Okay. One of the topics we didn't get to last week, but wanted to talk about is OpenSea launching their new marketplace protocol called Seaport. One of the big kind of changes here, it allows you to trade NFTs in new ways. You can now like bundle assets to create a trade. So you can say, hey, I want to give you a doodle and X amount of ETH in exchange for your Bored Ape. And so it just allows for more dynamic trading. Do you trade like that? Is that something I feel like you probably do those kinds of trades, right? You're truly Jenny.
I don't really. I might have done it once or twice in specific circumstances. Actually, I have done it once or twice in specific circumstances, but for the most part, I don't. But I know a lot of people do, and a lot of people would like to. And there are sites like SudoSwap and NFT Trader that are basically exactly this. And there's clearly a demand for it. I think that this is really an excellent thing though, because a lot of people get scammed trying to do trades like this. And either they go to a fake SudoSwap or a fake NFT trader, or they go to a site that is like that, but it's just a complete scam site. The really unfortunate person who had 29 moonbirds scammed, fished, drained a couple of weeks ago, basically used a site that they thought was legitimate to trade. I can't remember what the exact trade was, but it was social engineering plus this malicious contract on a phishing website, masquerading as a trading website. So I think if a platform like OpenSea can just establish a standard and a safe space where everyone knows, oh, you can use Seaport to trade ETH plus NFTs for an item and something like that, then it's great. It's a good thing for the space.
Yeah, I agree. I'm thinking about I've been thinking about marketplaces lately, and I had Jake Bruckman from Coin Fund on the podcast recently. Coin Fund being an investment fund in the space that's been around for 7 years plus, and was led one of the early rounds for Rarible, has bet on Metaplex, which is a Solana based, I don't even know what you'd call it, platform, but it allows for you to make like bespoke marketplaces on Solana for different kinds of NFTs. And he's really making a big bet on like a fractured marketplace system, right? Where there's marketplaces for all different industries, and that it'll be a very commoditized thing. And it's more about like building the tooling that allows people to build whatever marketplaces they want, rather than sort of like one behemoth like OpenSea, which we have now. And I just think I don't have a strong opinion actually on this yet. I think he's probably right that we'll see more bespoke marketplaces spring up, but what that means for OpenSea and its future, and like, can its network effects, it doesn't really play on its network effects that much. Like, it doesn't have the social component. So it really is just a habit thing that keeps it around. I don't know if you have a perspective on this, but I just think it's an interesting question, sort of how the marketplace space plays out over the next decade.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that we end up in a future with fractured marketplaces, lots of different marketplaces, marketplaces for niches, basically. So we will have individual projects will have their own marketplaces. So GMoney is a great example of that. He has his own marketplace for the Admit One, for the Brick Breaker game, and I think the Adidas Into the Metaverse might be on there, maybe not. But just a place where you can transact with 0% marketplace fees, because the project who owns those NFTs that allow you to transact there, they don't take, or maybe it's 0.1%, so it's a fraction of a percent. More and more projects are going to be doing this. In addition to that, we're going to have marketplaces, I believe, spring up that cater to certain types of NFTs, which are just better viewed and better experienced in a different environment. Like OpenSea is not a fantastic place to look at art, for example. It's not a fantastic place to look at 3D gaming assets. It's, you have this little window and you can rotate sometimes, you can make it full screen sometimes. You can't necessarily enter a metaverse space and walk around it. Maybe for certain assets, like a 3D sculpture, it would be nice to do that. Maybe there's an AR marketplace for NFTs and so on and so on. So I think we're going to see a lot of different niche marketplaces, maybe one for gaming, one for music, one for art, etc. And then we're going to have aggregators. And then where people will go for the most part is either the niche marketplace to buy, sell, transact, or to view the NFT. But I think like expert traders and pro traders and people who are more active, they'll probably just use these aggregators. And we see them. There's Gem, there's Genie, there's Blur coming out soon. There's probably a lot more in the pipeline. It's to me the clear future. And yeah.
So what does that mean for OpenSea? You're like, OpenSea's not good for this. It's not good for that. I'm like, what's it good for?
Well, OpenSea bought Gem, so they're fine.
That's true.
They're playing that game. The aggregator. Yeah.
Very interesting. Okay, a couple other topics to kind of add-ons from last week. Well, some of these are continuations of like updates. I gave a big update on the Seth Green situation and the Seth Green Bored Ape situation. His Bored Ape was stolen, but he has like a whole TV show built around this Bored Ape that got stolen. And so then it was a whole saga of like trying to get the ape back and then saying he was going to sue and what are his rights to still use the ape. Well, last week I'd said, and this was a John Rogers idea, was like, well, he should have licensed the ape to himself or to his production company as soon as he had the concept for the film. So then even if it had gotten stolen or anything had happened, he would still have the rights to use it in his film because that licensing agreement would hold even if you sell an NFT or whatever. And that concept just being an interesting one to me because there's all sorts of ramifications for that in the future of like, if you've gotten your NFT into some sort of agreement and you've licensed it in some way and then you are trying to sell it, how will that affect things like rarity and it's whatever. Okay, but there was an attorney who came out and I guess was interviewed by The Defiant that said the way the Bored Ape like commercial licensing agreements are actually written is they're very non-specific. So they don't actually specify that you lose the rights to use it in something once you've sold it. So they're sort of making this argument that like if you've ever owned it, you actually have these rights in perpetuity because the contract doesn't specify that those rights terminate at any point upon the sale of it. So I don't know if this is like an up for interpretation thing or if this is like definitely legally true, but this is one lawyer's statement saying that Seth Green should still be able to use it because he once owned this Bored Ape. That's fascinating to me as well. I don't know what I think about that. I need more time to digest it, but I don't know. Any thoughts on your end?
No, it is fascinating. I agree that the Bored Ape licensing the terms and conditions are really bare bones. It's just like you have full commercial rights, and you can see that they had the idea to begin with, and maybe they didn't run it by a dozen lawyers, because you look at the licensing agreement for mutants and it's much more extensive and specific, and then obviously other side and stuff, it gets even worse or like more restrictive because that's Yuga and less Bored Ape specifically. But yeah, so clearly there's going to be issues, and these cases will probably eventually go to court, and there'll be some really interesting outcomes. There's an interesting situation going on, sort of. So the podcast I host with my friend Jamie, Two Bored Apes, we started when we both bought apes. He sold his ape this week. So the logo has me with my ape and him with his old ape, and now we're like, well, what do we do? Do we change our logo? So we have no idea, but do we should we rename to One Bored Ape? It's really interesting because there's no
One Bored Ape
real
talking
precedent.
NFTs, DeFi, and some random stuff.
I was trying to get him
That's
to buy
the
a
theme
goblin.
song
One
for
bored
Two Bored
ape
Apes
and a goblin. Yeah.
Yeah, one Bored Ape and a
goblin.
Goblintown talking NFTs. And some random.
Yeah. It is fascinating though. Yeah.
That is interesting. I mean, my instinct, and I think I'm so much more of a traditionalist than you are. Like I like CCO, but I'm not nearly the kind of like pro CCO person that you are for these brands. Sort of is like, I feel like if I'm a holder, I don't want to think that anybody who ever held the ape could do anything. I gave this example last time, but like in theory, you could sabotage an existing ape holder by like creating then a licensing agreement for the ape to go like star in a porn film or something.
Right.
And you could argue you have that right because you once held the right. Like, I don't know how that, can you enter into licensing agreements with an ape that you no longer hold? Like all of these, I think this is so interesting, by the way. Like as a thought experiment and seeing how it plays out, and the whole concept of having these NFTs now that can actually be like actors or assets or what, like it's fascinating, but I tend to be a little bit more on the side of being restrictive for the sake of the brand and for the sake of these things being able to hold their value. Awesome. Well, we are at time in the sense that quite literally you have other things to get to, as do I, but I will close with Kanye West has apparently submitted trademarks for NFTs pertaining to Yeezus and the Yeezus line or whatever the heck. So I don't know, maybe the world is ending or or we're about to get 1 million new people into NFTs, but that's happened.
Yeah, it's the tidal wave is coming. It's Jim Carrey bought his first NFT.
And it was a friend of mine, Alex Wexel, really awesome artist.
Amazing. It's
I mean,
a great
we're
piece.
not close friends, but she came to my house during NFT NYC last year, and she's lovely. So I'm super excited for her.
Yeah, tidal wave is coming.
Yep. Tidal wave is coming. All right, Zeneca, you are the best as always, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks for more moments of Zeneca.
Amazing.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of Overpriced JPEGs. If you liked this conversation, if you liked this episode, please go ahead and hit subscribe. It helps me out, it helps the show out, and it means you will get alerts and updates when we post new content. Thanks again.